What we're going to look at now is the ambiguous case of law of sines. That is when you're given the information of two sides and an angle, side-side angle. In this case, you can either get no triangle, one triangle, or two triangles. Let's say you're given side A is 3, side B is 7, and angle A, or alpha, is 70. All right, so as far as trying to work this out, we can write sine of B is B as sine of A is side A, or that is we have sine of B is 7 as sine of 70 is 3. Let's cross multiply. I have 3 sine B equals 7 times the sine of 70 degrees, or that is sine of B is 7/3 sine of 70. Now, if I try to work that out, if I took 7 sine of 70 divided by 3 and put that in your calculator, it ends up being about 2.19. So we're saying that the sine of some angle is 2.19. You know that can't happen. Okay, sine of angles between 1 and -1 inclusive. Okay, so in other words, you can't have a sine bigger than 1. So since this is bigger than 1, there's no triangle. All right, so this is the 0 case. So basically when you work this out, if you get that the sine of the angle is bigger than 1, there's no triangle. Or if you took it a step further, say if you didn't really think about that time, you tried to work it out, if sine of B is some value, the B we know is the inverse sine of this. And so what will happen is when you put that in your calculator, this will be an error statement. All right. And so assuming you put everything correctly, if you get an error statement, then that tells you that can't happen. So there is no triangle for that. All right. Now, let's take a look at, say you're given B is 4, C is 3, and beta or B is 40 degrees. So we have sine of 40 degrees is to 4 as sine of C, or gamma, is 3. Cross multiply. So I have 3 sine of 40 equals 4 sine of C, or that is 3 sine of 40, or 4 is sine of C. Now, probably putting that in your calculator would probably be easier to just put 0.75 times sine of 40. But anyway, C would then be the inverse sine of all that. I'll just go write 0.75 sine of 40. You can do what you want on that. I'll call it C1. All right, when you put that in your calculator, this ends up being about 28.8. Now, when you get an angle back as opposed to the first case where it was an error, okay, what you want to do is get the other instance by taking 180 minus the angle you get from all this. So in other words, C2 is going to equal 180 minus C1. Okay, so in other words, this is going to be 180 minus 28.8. So that's 151.2. Of course, it's all approximate. Okay. This tells me, since I got a value here, I got at least one triangle. How do I know whether it's one triangle or two triangles? Look at what you're given. Take the bigger angle and add to this angle. If it's less than 180, that tells me I can get another angle fit in there, and I got two triangles. See, that didn't happen here. When I take 151.2 and add it to 40, that's certainly bigger than 180. So this doesn't work out. As a result, you're just using this one, and so you got one triangle. Okay? All right, so once again, go through this, figure out an inverse sine. Then to get the other angle, you take 180 minus that. Then you take this big angle, add to the angle that you're given. If it's bigger than 180, okay, because we know there's 180 in the total amount of degrees in a triangle, you just have one triangle. If it's not, you can get another angle fit in there. There's two triangles. I'll do one of those in a minute. All right, so we have that C. I'll just call it C because there's no C1. It's just that. So we have C is 28.8. What do we have left to find? Okay, we got to figure out angle A. Well, angle A, or alpha, is 180 minus 40 minus 28.8. Okay, so that works out as being 112. 111 rather, 0.2. 111.2. Then, as far as remaining, what we like to find, we need to find side A. We need to find side A. So sine of 40 is to 4, as sine of 111.2 is to side A. It's best to go back to your original measurements as opposed to something where you've approximated it. I mean, it's not that big a deal, but I know Alex can be pretty picky as far as the rounding. So, you know, you want to go back to your original measurements, the 40 and the 4. All right, so we got this. Let's go ahead and cross multiply. So I got A times sine of 40 is 4 times sine of 111.2. So A is 4 times the sine of 111.2 over sine of 40. And so this ends up being about 5.80. You can check with your original, problems when you work them out. They may specify to run it differently than what I am. All right, let's look at one more, and you know what that one's going to be for what's going to happen. So you're given B is 4, C is 5, B or beta is 40. So sine of 40 is to 4, as sine of C or gamma is to 5. So I have 5 times sine of 40 is 4 times the sine of C, or 5/4. All this is the sine of C. Or it might be easier to think of this as 1.25. So in other words, inverse sine of all that, if you want to lose 5/4, that's fine. Sine of 40 is C. And we'll call that C1. So we work it out in your calculator. You get that C1 is about 53.5. Now, how do you get the other angle? Remember, you take 180 minus that, okay? Because sine of theta is sine of 180 minus theta. All right, so taking 180 minus that, let's say C2 is about 126.5. Now, I know this is a two triangle case, because when I take that bigger angle, that 126.5, and add to 40, that is less than 180, okay? That's about, that is 166.5. So anyway, that's less than 180. So I got a two triangle case, two triangles. All right, so case 1, we'll use the C1 being 53.5. Angle A1, I'll call it, is 180 minus 40 minus 53.5. And so that's 86.5. Now we need to find side A that corresponds with that. So I got sine of 40 is to 4, as sine of 86.5 is to A1. So I got A1 sine 40 is 4 times sine of 86.5. A1 is all that. Divide. And so you get that A1 is about 6.21. All right, so that's case 1. Now let's look at case 2. Side here. Case 2. A2. Okay, so we're using C2 being the 126.5. Okay, the C2 back from here. And so we have that A2 is 180 minus B, which is 140, minus 126.5. And so that is 13.5. And so we have sine of B, that's sine of 40, is 4, as sine of 13.5 is 2, we'll call it A2. So A2 sine of 40 is 4 times the sine of 13.5. So A2 is 4 sine 13.5 over sine of 40. And so side A2 is about 1.45. So we got angle A2, 13.5, C2, that. Hopefully you don't find this too difficult. It can be a little lengthy, you see, but you can see the cases that go through on that.